Welcome back to our series on language design with OHM. We are designing a little programming language interactively with the OHM editor. We've added some simple statements, some control statements, strings, booleans, integers, and floats. And now it's time to add functions. So going back to our little language, here it is. Here are the statements we have so far: prints, variable declarations, assignments, whiles, ifs, and breaks, a rich set of operators, bunch of keywords, and a few types. But what we don't have at the moment is functions. So let's think about adding in a few functions. Make some space over here and let's go. Let's go with an example. So we can create functions with names like func or what should we do here? Func fun. Function. Let's go with function. And let's just do a simple add function. Let's say that we'll be adding two variables, X and Y. And I'm going to put some types in here because it's more interesting to write statically typed languages when you're making compilers and things like that, because you want your compiler to do a lot of work. So I'm going to go in with something like this. It's going to look very TypeScript-like. I'm going to put the types after the colon. I'll say return X plus Y. I mean, talk about boring. I mean, it's as boring as you can get, but there we go. That's going to be our test right now. Function add X and Y int, return an int, and so on. So what do these things kind of look like? Well, we're going to have a new kind of a statement called a function declaration. And our function declaration will start off with the keyword function. It'll have an ID. It'll have a set of parameters. It will have a colon followed by its return type. And then for the body, it will have a block, right? The block is what we put in our curly braces. So this could be a function declaration. We can go ahead and make some space in here if we want to. Let's see. Line it up. Maybe make it look pretty, right? Get some pretty looking code in here. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, it's complaining that we don't have the word function right here and we don't have param. So let's put function in first. Function is going to be a new keyword. Function will be the word function, not followed by an alphanumeric. Stick function over here because function is going to be a keyword. Nothing surprising there. We did that last time. And now we have to do params because params do not yet exist. So what do params look like? Well, I think these parentheses should probably be required. Okay, and inside of here, we're going to have a bunch of things where we have an identifier, colon, and a type. And they're separated by commas. Let's call these things just individual params. So let's just say there's going to be a number of parameters in there, but each of those params are actually separated by commas. So we're going to use this cool thing in OHM called list of. And when we say list of param comma, that means we have a bunch of param syntactic constructs separated by commas. And where a param is just going to be an ID and a colon and a type. Okay, and there we have it. So function ID, let's see what the interest, function ID. That part looks good. Oh, it's expecting an equal sign after return. You know what? It thinks that return is an identifier, which it's not. This tells us that we need a return statement. We need to say return followed by an expression. And this one should have a semicolon after. We want to end statements with semicolons unless they end with a block, because that'll be a curly. So let's go with return exp. We don't have return, so let's drop it in here. Yet another keyword. Return not followed by an alphanumeric. Look at that. It is green. So we have actually defined a function. Can we write other functions just for fun? I mean, what if this function was called less and it would return, say, a Boolean, and then we can return X less than Y? Does that pass? Yeah, that passes, right? So we have 0 more parameters. Oh, we should also make a test for 0 parameters. So maybe let's have a function called 0, and it just returns 0, like so. Oh, what do you return? Oh, I'm going to return an int, green. All right. It's always good to write your test. Wait for it to be green, test a little and fix a little and so on. Okay, so we have function declarations, but we don't have calls. So we would like to do something like print the GCD of 10 and the square root of 100, something like that. I don't know, that's kind of weird looking, but I'll take it. All right, so what we have in here are function calls. So GCD, we're going to call. And what do calls look like? All right, so a call would be an expression, starts with an identifier, and then has a parenthesized list of arguments. So let's dive down into our primary over here and make sure that we do our call identifier followed by arguments here. This will be a call. Remember to put this before plain old ID, right? Because a plain old ID came before ID args. We would match the ID before we had a chance to match our arguments. And we'd actually be pretty sad about that. Right? So let's now talk about arguments. Just like parameters or lists of bindings separated by commas, our arguments are going to be expressions separated by commas. So it's a good place to put that. Here's our parameters. So let's say arguments are going to be, let's see, parenthesis, and then a list of expressions followed by, or separated by, not followed by, separated by commas. Wow, did we expect that to get green so fast? Well, I don't know, but it did. We have lists in here and things look pretty good. So functions and function calls, I think, are good. We should maybe try functions that have no arguments. It's always a good test. Print of some function f with no arguments. That looks like it's a call. See, here's our call, and calls have arguments, and arguments can have an empty list. That's pretty good. All right. I'm not going to do anonymous functions right now because I think we're in pretty good shape with the functions we have right now. Next up is going to be complex types. We're going to add arrays and dictionaries and all that kind of good stuff. So see you in the next one. Bye.